Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I think you're going to enjoy this next episode. This is part one of a four-part series regarding everything you need to know about diastasis recti, the mommy bulge after pregnancy. So make sure you join in and listen because I think there's tons of information you need to hear. All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We're going to be discussing everything there is to know about diastasis recti. We're going to be doing, today will be part one or episode one of a four episode series. I'm super excited. We're going to have some amazing guests and we're going to be doing it differently. We're going to be doing it via Zoom. And, as everyone knows, COVID has changed the dynamics of the world. And so for the sake of social distancing, I've asked our guests to join in on the Zoom and we're going to try this out and see how it goes. I'm super excited. So today, the first episode, we've titled it A Closer Look at Diastasis Recti from the Inside Out. And I'm joined by two of my lovely patients, Manasi and Stephanie. And Stephanie seems to be having some technical issues, technical difficulties, but she'll join on. Manasi, where are you located?
Hi, I'm located in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, great. And Stephanie will come back and join us in a second. So what we're talking about today is trying to figure out, why do some people get, first of all, I'm going to define diastasis for everybody so they know, what is this funky word? So diastasis recti is a medical term that refers to separation of the abdominal muscles after pregnancy. So a woman has a child, as her belly expands, her muscles, her rectus muscles, the so-called six packs, which actually are 8-pack, they pull apart. And after she delivers the children, she gets back in shape, everything is fine, the muscles don't suddenly grow back together. And so that is considered diastasis, which can be mild, moderate, or severe, and can certainly get worse with each pregnancy. So the purpose of today's episode and the four-part series is discuss individuals who have severe diastasis. And by severe, I'm referring to the fact that it impacts their lives and quality of lives in a major way. And so what we want to talk about is, why do some women have 5 children and flat as a surfboard? And then another woman has 2 children and she has worked out and dieted and done everything she's supposed to do and she still looks 3 or 4 months pregnant? Why do some women have severe or more major diastasis? And so that's kind of like the holy grail of questions that people constantly are asking is, why did somebody get it and somebody doesn't? So let's start out with just making some of the facts. The overwhelming majority of women suffer from diastasis. The person we all know who's flat as a board and delivered 5 babies is a unicorn and an unknown phenomenon. Yes, everybody has that friend, but I want you to know that the overwhelming majority of women who give birth to multiple pregnancies end up developing some version or some degree of diastasis. And so do not feel like, wow, I'm the only one that this happens to. That is not the case at all. People have done an amazing job of hiding it. They wear Spanx, they wear concealing clothes, and et cetera, et cetera. So what are some of the reasons why people get it? Well, number one, large pregnancies. If you end up having a 10-pound child, right? Or if you end up having, a 9.5-pound baby that's 23 inches, that child is expanding in your abdominal cavity and pushing its way out. And so it's going to stretch those muscles along with everything else. Multiple pregnancies. So if you end up having 5 pregnancies, it's going to be different than 1 pregnancy, right? Because each pregnancy pulls on your muscles to a certain degree. And then subsequently, it doesn't go back. So imagine here you have these muscles and they're linked together when you're 17. And then you have your first pregnancy and they get here. Well, when you're skinny and fit and everything's back together, this doesn't go back. This just stays here. Then you have your next pregnancy and then your next pregnancy and your next pregnancy. So multiple pregnancies obviously make a difference. A huge phenomenon now are twins. In the age of infertility, women getting pregnant later, or even just genetic twins, you can just imagine having 2 6-pound children in your abdomen is going to be way more dramatic an impact than 2 individual 6-pound babies at 2 separate times, right? and having pregnancies very close together. In other words, not allowing your abdominal core to have a chance to bounce back, because remember, the rubber band has to be able to deal with the elasticity. So those are some of the major reasons why people end up having severe diastasis. It also has to do with how fit you were before. So imagine you are going to push on two different walls. One is made of concrete and one is made of bamboo. So when you push on a wall that's super fit, it resists stretch more than if you push on a wall that's not so fit. So definitely pre-pregnancy fitness is an important factor, and you tend to do better through your pregnancy if you're more in shape as far as your abdomen is than if you weren't. So those are some of the main reasons why some people get it and other. And by the way, some of it is just genetic. I mean, you just got it. Oh, but I was this and I followed all the rules and I used cocoa butter and and I still got it. Yeah, that's why some people get diabetes at 30. It just happens. So that's the idea. So then the second part about it, and where my guests are going to come in and we're going to chat together, is living with this diastasis and how it impacts your physicality and how it impacts your psychology. Because, people want to easily just dismiss things, right? Oh, so you have some diastasis. What's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal. And especially if it's severe, it's a very big deal. And we want to chat about what those things are. So let's talk about the symptoms, the physical symptoms of having severe diastasis. So welcome back, Stephanie. We lost you momentarily, but we'd love to have you back. So Manasi, tell me a little about after you how many kids, how big were they, and then what did you get to?
So I have two kids, older one, so they're 3 years apart. The older one was exactly 10 pounds and 22 inches tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Okay, how much did you weigh before you got pregnant?
110 pounds.
So 110 pounds, 5'5", and you had a 10-pound, 23-inch child.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
And and my second baby, who was 3 years apart, she was quarter to 11 pounds and almost 23 inches tall.
Okay. So right there, you don't need to be a rocket scientist. You don't need to be a physician. You just know that if a person is 110 pounds and they're 5'5", and they have a 10-pound and an 11-pound child, there's a high probability that their abdomen will get destroyed, period. And so you had your children, and then what happened to your abdomen?
So after, like I said, I was 110 pounds, super fit. I used to take part in running races, like relays and 100 and 400 meter running races. After I had my child, I just lost the strength that I had to do any of that. It came down so bad that just simple things like bending and getting up again or getting out of bed actually was like a ritual. It took about like 5 to 10 minutes to like slowly get up and roll off the bed and like get away with the pain and like get going with your day.
Okay, so highlights a few things. So what does that highlight? Number one, it highlights the myth that people who get diastasis were lazy and they just happen. Here you were a runner, which is probably in the 5% of people run. I don't run. I can't run. I get back spasms. So you were super in shape. So that takes care of that. And so that myth is out the window. And secondly, what people are left with is pain in the abdomen and pain in the back, right? Mm-hmm. And the other is effect of your functionality. The things you used to do, you can no longer do. I used to run. I can't run. I used to bounce right out of bed and just hurl myself out. And now I have to come up with some kind of ritual, as you said, or some methodology to get myself out. So those are it has affected your functionality. What else?
Just basic stuff like carrying grocery bags. Immediately my lower back would start hurting. Taking my kid out of the car seat and putting him back in there. Like I said, he was born at 10 pounds, so like obviously he kept growing. He kept getting heavier. I couldn't, just regular stuff that I had never even thought that I would have to like think twice before, how am I going to get the baby out so that I don't pull my back or I don't hurt myself? Like everything took time.
Right. So what
like
happens?
Things that I could.
What happens, and you're absolutely right, is that you start having low back pain, right? And why is it that most number one symptom of individuals across the board who have diastasis complain of lower back pain? Why is that? It's because your abdominal muscles are no longer functioning. Your core is a cylinder. It's a cylinder. It's round, and 80% of your strength comes from the front. 20% comes from your, what we refer to as your back and paraspinous muscles. They're rinky-dink, and that's why nobody has huge back, and they have very strong front. And when your core is cracked, imagine a cylinder is split right down the middle, it loses its functionality. So all the pressure falls onto your back. Your back has to pull the weight, and it's not designed to do that. And so it starts to ache. And, things that you didn't realize you were using your core for, getting your child out of a car seat, is all about core strength. You can't do anymore. Steph, tell me about your how many children and all that jazz.
I had 2 10.5-pound babies about a year and a half apart. And I was super fit before going into my first pregnancy. My husband and I ran a half marathon together. We did kettlebells. We were just like ready to do this. I had a really tough pregnancy.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
And how much did you weigh when you had your first child?
180.
Okay, so you were fit runner, half marathon. I can't run a half marathon. I never ran a half marathon. I couldn't even run a half marathon if you paid me. So again, we're going to highlight these things because it's important for that person sitting at home going, oh God, it doesn't have to be any particular story. It can be any story. And the idea that if you were fit, this would have never happened is not true. So you had your 2 very large children, and here you're a larger frame person. You're 5'10".
Yeah.
So this shouldn't happen to you.
Right.
You have lots of space in your belly, but a 10-pound child. And how many weeks did you deliver at?
They were both 40 and changed a few days.
Okay. So one thing we didn't touch on is full-term babies. If you deliver a baby at 36 weeks, or if you deliver a baby at 41 weeks, that's a massive difference. Why? Because those last few weeks of a super large child pushing constantly makes a huge difference than if you deliver a 6.5-pound child at 36.5 or 37 weeks. You can't even compare the two of those things. So it's quite common that people who have diastasis issues had large children late into their pregnancy. So what were the things you noticed?
Well, I definitely noticed that I don't know if you found this, Manasi, but my stomach was like on my legs. So I definitely had like hypermobile tissue, and nobody told me like strap that belly up. So, I was doing all the, I had the belt, but I actually needed like a full on like carry system. And so I think the fact that the baby was so large and then not actually in my pelvis, and just, my abdomen, tissue had to carry that weight and not the muscles. So
you end up giving birth, you end up having this diastasis. And the next question then becomes okay, so what were your symptoms? So did you have back pain?
I had back pain, but the most profound thing, it's just like your stomach falling out of your body. Mm-hmm. It's just like going for a walk or something. It feels really unstable. So you're prone to like balance issues, definitely digestion, things like that. And just the physical parts were profound. I do want to mention that I was able to rehab it right down. So I had like a 7. I know it's like people measure it differently, but let's just say it was large. It was profoundly large after first kiddo. Went down to like a 3 or 4 inch separation. And so that's what I went into my second pregnancy with, an existing.
Yeah. Which is always the case because it always, and we're going to get in the next few episodes. That's why we divided this into 4 episodes. It's just no way you are adequately going to address this topic. We've been speaking already for, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and we literally have just started an introduction. We'll talk about this idea of rehabbing, et cetera. But right now, you guys basically, just between the two of you, have highlighted the most common symptoms, which are chronic low back pain, digestive issues, people having issues with constipation because their motility of their gut isn't within their abdomen, and so it creates things. Some people who develop super thin skin, and I think, Manasi, you were in that category, you can start to see the movement of your intestines when you lay down. People are like, what are you talking about? There are videos some of my patients have posted. You look like an alien. You're laying down and you can see like your intestines moving. That's how much the skin and tissue have stretched. Pelvic floor instability. There are people who complain of incontinence. They sneeze and all of a sudden, boom, they've soiled or leaked because they don't have that strength to maintain everything together. So those are the symptoms that we see with diastasis. The next question is, that's like half of it. What about the other half? The other half is the mental barriers. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break, okay? And then we'll come back and we're gonna discuss now what? The mental barriers, which is like, how do I manage this? How do I deal with intimacy? What am I doing with the guilt? There's all those things that happen after the fact. So I hope everyone enjoys the segment. Join us after this quick break as we continue on to discuss diastasis recti. Welcome back to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We're here at the second half. We've been chatting with my two wonderful dear guests, which are Manasi and Stephanie, who are actually not only guests and friends, but patients of mine. And we're going to dive in further into diastasis recti. We talked about the symptoms. Now let's talk about actually the physical symptoms. Let's now talk about the emotional symptoms. So Manasi, you had these beautiful children. You are limited in your activity. You went from running to like not even being able to get out of bed. So let's talk about how that affected you in terms of your psychology, your mental mindset.
It was a big impact. Basically, like I said, I was so fit. I never had to think about like what kind of clothes I should be wearing. And I came down to like, okay, like I have this huge belly over here and I need support for my back. What am I going to do? I cannot wear the girdle all day, all the time, just because, it's very uncomfortable sitting down and it's just too much. So then I went back to my pregnancy pants with the,
which is quite common, right?
Yeah, I'm the other moms that I've spoken to who had DR, they said the same thing because I had no idea I had DR. I was like, okay, what is this thing? And I was like, I need to protect my back, so I need to wear this. And I started asking other moms and they're like, oh, just wear your pregnancy pants. That'll hold your belly. So I just got into a habit of like just wearing whatever I had. I avoided going to any parties because I didn't have many clothes. If I would go out like grocery shopping or anywhere, they would like come up to me and ask me like, congratulations, how far along are you? And I'm like, well, I just delivered a baby 3 years ago. Right.
So that's actually right there. It's so funny because there are certain things that I hear over and over and over again, which is as on my end, I serve as the common thread amongst all these other patients. And so I have the opportunity of hearing the dialogue. So I know what I hear over and over again. So one of the most common things is people keep telling me I'm pregnant. My own children poke at my belly and say, mommy, are we having a brother or sister? And so the question is, how does that impact one's psychology or emotional status? And a lot of the patients come depressed. They're just depressed. And we hate to use the word like it's some disease, but being depressed means that you're unhappy and you are, your self-esteem is impacted. And here you are, this glorious mother of 2 children, and you've just dedicated and devoted your whole life to having these children. And now you are not excited about yourself. And so a lot of women, amongst all this physical limitations, present with a certain degree of heaviness and depression. And I'm assuming that you felt that way as well.
Oh yeah. It definitely takes a toll on you. Like in the beginning, you can't try to like tell yourself that, okay, this is what it is and you have to live with this. But day after day, when you keep declining the invitations, you keep pushing your family away, your friends away just because you don't want to go out, it just goes downhill.
And that says everything, because the whole point of life is to engage in life. And so if you are if avoiding life because of something, you're avoiding life because, I don't know, you can't buy clothes, you don't look attractive. The last thing you want to do is go to anything where it's form fitting, like a formal attire or a beach party, or, that item, whatever that item is that's causing you to avoid life, is severe, right? It's severe. Yes. Steph, what were some of the things that you felt emotionally? I understand the physicality. What were the emotional impacts of this thing that happened to you?
Yeah, a lot of the things that Manasi said. And I honestly didn't realize it until after I had my surgery, because you're living in it and you don't realize how much your life has actually degraded.
Great.
So I didn't realize how I was distancing myself from my husband. I didn't realize that I was like, oh, daddy can play with you, because even a walk for me is challenging. Or definitely not running, like even with my compression pants and my girdle, like that's not even,
right.
Even just a little game of tag or something. So that's heartbreaking to see yourself distancing from your family and your friends. And yeah, it was a profound difference. And like I said, I didn't notice until afterwards that I was doing all these things. And it's so sad.
I think one thing you said, which is really important to discuss, is intimacy.
Yeah,
intimacy
definitely.
is massive. And we there's this sort of overall kind of comical way we handle intimacy after babies. It's like, it's like once you've had children, there is no intimacy. It's all out the window. And that's bullshit. That's not the way it should be. I mean, sure, intimacy changes from when you're dating to when you're like 15 years into a marriage, but you should be able to get undressed, feel attractive, put on something sexy, and be intimate with your life partner. And be able to engage in that aspect of your life. It is an aspect of one's being. Yes, taking care of kids is an aspect. Going to work is an aspect. Taking care of yourself and meditating is an aspect. But intimacy is an aspect. And I cannot tell you the number of women who I have had the pleasure of taking care of, who have come back to me in private, teary-eyed, telling me that they finally were really intimate. And intimate doesn't mean just present. I mean, just being there, but intimate means being present with their life partners. Can we touch on that just briefly, if you feel comfortable? Like, Steph, tell me about intimacy. You said about it, like you start avoiding your husband. So tell me how you experienced it.
Right. I mean, my husband is just this amazing guy that would have never, he's like, whatever I look like, he loves me. But he, like, whenever he'd put his hand even on my stomach or anything, it felt uncomfortable. So I was finding myself maybe going to bed at a different time than him, or things that like just weren't healthy for our marriage. Not letting him touch me in just an organic, natural way, hiding, like when I was going to go take a shower, like before baby, we used to take showers every day together. And like after DR, it was like hiding, leaping behind a door or something. Like it was just crazy making.
That's profound. That's very profound.
Yes. And it would hurt him. It was just like, it was just crazy. And I, again, it became the norm, but I didn't realize how heavy it was weighing on my heart and it was super unhealthy. And so.
And now that you had the repair, because you can put a juxtaposition, both of you have had surgery. Some of our guests, or there's a physical therapist, et cetera, but you have the vantage point before and after. Many of the people that will be listening are sitting on the other side of the conversation, just waiting to see what their life should hold. You now have the ability to say, this is what I felt and now. So tell me about your intimacy now.
I mean, it's definitely, it's lighthearted. It's fun. It's, we had to essentially deprogram these norms where I was jumping like behind doors or whatever. And so I did that the other day, and then I was like, oh, actually, like, I don't need to do that anymore. Awesome. So it's definitely, I think a big part of this that people don't think about is how much brain space it takes up when you're constantly thinking about like what you're going to wear, like it's just so heavy on your brain. And to not have that there and to be able to show up in my relationship, in friendships with my kids is just like profoundly life-changing.
I love that. And I think you said it great. It takes up brain space because you're constantly aware of it. Manasi, tell me about your, I think there's different things. You end up showing up in all regards. Like, for example, playing with your kids, you show up real. Like you can, I know one of my other patients said to me, I used to love to play with my kids and kind of, be physically active with them. And then I stopped for years and now I'm like literally outrunning them and they're trying to catch me. And so there's that component of your kids. There's a component of like, wow, I feel sexy for my husband. Now, it is very common for patients to say, my husband loves me no matter what. That's not what this is about. This is not about you being attractive for someone. This is about you being attractive for yourself, in which you then translate to feeling more confident, which then translates to a higher degree of intimacy. It isn't so much that we're saying that, partners look at you and say, oh, wow, love. That's not the case. I have heard over and over and over and over again, women saying, my husband loved me no matter what. But you can't deny the fact that when you feel sexy, whether that's because you're wearing a beautiful dress or you smell good or you put on whatever, men do that, women do that, that you're just not more present. That's just nonsense when people say, just love yourself. It's ridiculous. So when you feel sexy, you feel sexy, you are sexy. And that's what galvanizes intimacy. Nobody wants to be around an insecure person. You want to be around someone who's secure, whatever their issue is. So Manasi, did you find that to be also the case?
Yes, like she covered a lot of the points. Like literally after the pregnancies, your brain switches. Like she said, like leaping behind the door, like I would literally stay awake till late. I would not go to sleep early, so I don't have to deal with all the touching or hugging. Like we used to cuddle a lot, and that stopped completely because I just did not like anyone touching me. Even sometimes my kids would run up to me and like, they would hug. Obviously, they're like up to my belly height. So they would like hug me tight over there, and I'm like, no, get away, get away. Same thing. My husband, like she said, like, obviously he was respecting the fact that I was going through something. So he let me go through the whole process, but then it became like a mindset. It became my routine. Like my whole brain operation changed.
Right.
Every single thing was.
It consumes you. It becomes your way of life. And that's exactly what you guys are talking about. So, the purpose of this conversation we're having, episode 1, is to bring awareness of what it is and how it impacts your life and how unaware you are that it is consuming every square inch of your existence. And the reason why you guys are so helpful today is that you guys have the ability to not just say, oh, this is how I'm feeling, which is very important. You're saying, this is how I felt. And now this is how I'm feeling. And so it brings credence to the idea that it did exist, because sometimes you don't believe it exists, because you only know when the space is cleared. And the other is, now we're talking about in the other episodes, what the hell do I do with this damn thing that's consuming my life? And both of you had corrective surgery, which we're going to get into segments, which is we fixed the DR in conjunction with other things through an abdominoplasty. And we'll talk about the differences between just doing a routine garden variety abdominoplasty and then doing it when you have someone you can see their intestines moving. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. And so as a result of the surgeries you had, we can talk about the so-called positive impacts. Well, what are they? Number one, I'm assuming both of you, your back pain is significantly reduced.
Completely gone.
Okay. So I hate to say things because I don't want to be that person, but 90%, maybe 95% of my patients say it's completely gone. So when I say it's diminished, I'm just trying to be sort of positive, but gone, right? Would you say the same, Steph?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a lady who got 7 epidurals. Count them. 7 epidurals prior to her DR repair. 7. She now has not had an epidural in 18 months. I mean, what the hell? We talk about pelvic floor issues, sneezing, coughing, feeling like your guts are not falling out from underneath you. Would you say both of you feel like that has occurred and that you've gotten that strength back?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed right away, like my first meal after surgery, that it was like, before I would drink a glass of water and, be 5 sizes bigger. But
so that leads to bloating. Bloating. Well,
like severe bloating.
Everything we eat expands our belly and our gut, no less if you have IBS, which I do. And so your stomach swells up. Now, if you have nothing keeping it in your abdomen, that would be your abdominal wall, it's going to expand and make you look like you're pregnant after you eat every time. And so that's going to go away. If the DR is corrected appropriately, these things are all interconnected. And then self-esteem issues. I mean, aside from, this intimacy that's done in closed doors, do you feel more attractive?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you get excited about shopping and buying something that might actually fit your body rather than wearing granny pants or large fitted items?
I was just going to say, like, the first time I went shopping after my surgery, I took my husband with me. I used to avoid taking him with me because he would like pull up clothes and he's like, what about this? And I'm like, that doesn't fit my belly. No, there's no way I'm wearing that. So I took him with me. I'm like, okay, let's go shopping. And I put on a regular pair of jeans.
It's not exciting.
Regular, not the pregnancy ones. Oh my God. I came out, I'm like, I can wear this. And he was like, okay. I was like, you have no idea how excited I am. I can wear regular pants.
What about undergarments? You guys know when you come to take your photos, I always harass you to wear sexy undergarments. The reason I do that is because I think it's a complete and total reflection of how one feels. You're wearing something that no one sees, but you're wearing and how it makes you feel. When I met you, Manasi, what kind of underwear were you wearing? Grandma underwear. You had it up to your navel. I mean, I remember vividly because you can see it in the before mode. Like literally came up to me. It was like a 60s bathing suit. And then you can see in the after photos, you're wearing attractive, sexy underwear. And who's that for? It's for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Nobody, it's not like you're at the grocery store and everyone's like, wow, that's a really nice pair of underwear you're wearing.
Right.
You put it on because it makes you feel good when you wear it in the morning. So I think these are all really important. And I think you guys have done an amazing job of describing what I guarantee you every single woman, doesn't matter, Asian, African-American, 5'5", 5'9", I don't care, 3 kids, 4 kids, every woman with moderate to severe diastasis, separation of muscles, will experience all of the things you guys discussed. And every single individual who has it repaired correctly, and we will get into what that all entails, will have the benefits that you guys described. You guys are a beautiful example of that journey of what's possible. And what makes me happiest is to see you both super smiley. Smiley means that you're comfortable in your own body and you're experiencing life at its forefront. You're at the front, at the edge of your life, as opposed to in the back of your life. And so I thank you both for coming and being part of this discussion. We're going to get together in episodes 2, 3, and 4 and discuss other crucial aspects of DR. But for the time being, you guys were lovely guests, and I'm so happy that you allowed me to be a part of your life journey.
No, we should be thanking you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You guys are the bomb. Okay, guys. So join us for the next episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. This is Dr. Radi Raban, and we're signing out.